Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. India counters Trump's tariffs threat, terms US and EU criticism unjustified and unreasonable, says will take all necessary steps to safeguard its interest and economy. Philippines President Marcos received ceremonial welcome at the forecourts of Rashtrapati Bhavan, pays homage at Rajghat, will hold talks with Prime Minister Modi in a short while from now. National Democratic Alliance MPs adopt resolution praising armed forces for Operation Sindoor and Operation Mahadev, hails Prime Minister Modi's leadership during challenging times. 6 years of Article 370 abrogation, a historic turning point in India's constitutional and political journey. Investments, infra upgrades, tourist footfall hike, marked changes in Jammu and Kashmir. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu vows to update Gaza conflict's strategy ahead of key UNSC meeting, while airdrop humanitarian assistance continues to reach people in Gaza. The Indian government has strongly hit back at the US after Donald Trump threatened to substantially raise tariffs on goods from India over its purchase of Russian oil. In a statement issued by the Ministry of External Affairs, the government stated it had been targeted by the United States and European Union over its purchase of Russian oil. It said that India began importing from Russia because traditional supplies were diverted to Europe after the outbreak of the conflict. The United States at that time actively encouraged such imports by India for strengthening global energy markets stability. The government added that India's imports are meant to ensure predictable and affordable energy costs to the Indian consumer. They are a necessity compelled by global market situation. However, it is revealing that the very nations criticizing India are themselves indulging in trade with Russia. Unlike our case, such trade is not even a vital national compulsion. The ministry put forth figures of European Union's oil trade with Russia, saying in 2024 they had a bilateral trade of 67.5 billion euros in goods with Russia. In addition, it had trade in services estimated at 17.2 billion euros in 2023. This is significantly more than India's total trade with Russia that year or subsequently. European imports of LNG in 2024, in fact, reached a record 16.5 million tons, surpassing the last record of 15.21 million tons in 2022. The government also mentioned that Europe-Russia trade includes not just energy, but also fertilizers, mining, products, chemicals, iron and steel, and machinery and transport equipment. Talking about the US, MEA said that America continues to import from Russia uranium hexafluoride for its nuclear industry, palladium for its EV industry, fertilizers as well as chemicals. Thus, the Indian government categorically stated in this background, the targeting of India is unjustified and unreasonable. It also clearly stated that like any major economy, India will take all necessary measures to safeguard its national interests and economic security. Philippines President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr., who is on a 5-day visit to India, received a ceremonial welcome at the forecourts of Rashtrapati Bhavan. The visiting President Marcos reaffirmed the alliance and the partnership the two nations share in strengthening the bond. The leader also said that Indo-Pacific is the correct evolution of Asia-Pacific.
It is a reaffirmation of the alliance and the partnership that we are strengthening. What used to be where we used to refer to the Asia-Pacific region, we now refer to as the Indo-Pacific region, which is the, I think, a correct evolution of that understanding because of the global nature of all of politics and of all of trade and all of the economy. And to build upon what we already have had, but to certainly to explore the many opportunities that have arisen in the past few years because of the new technologies and the changing state of the global economy and the geopolitics around us now.
President Marcos also paid tribute to Mahatma Gandhi at Rajghat by laying a wreath at Mahatma Gandhi's memorial. The leader shared commitment to the ideals of truth and non-violence. Philippines President is on a 5-day visit to India. In a short while from now, President Marcos will meet Prime Minister Narendra Modi in the national capital. Both the leaders will hold bilateral talks, and later in the day, the visiting dignitary will also meet his Indian counterpart, Draupadi Murmu. The National Democratic Alliance Parliamentary Party meeting was held in New Delhi on Tuesday. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and top NDA leaders, including Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, Union Home Minister Amit Shah, attended the meeting. Now, during the meeting, a resolution was passed unanimously by NDA MPs on the success of Operation Sindoor and Operation Mahadev. Condolences were given to the family members of the victims of the Pahalgam terror attack. New MPs were also introduced to the Prime Minister. Prime Minister Modi was welcomed and felicitated with a thunderous applause amid chants of Har Har Mahadev after the success of Operation Sindoor and Operation Mahadev at the NDA Parliamentary Party meeting. And now we take a look at the key highlights of the resolution passed at the NDA Parliamentary Party meeting. Members lauded the exceptional leadership displayed by Prime Minister Narendra Modi during these times. His unwavering resolve, visionary statesmanship and resolute command have not only steered the nation with purpose, but also ignited a renewed spirit of unity and pride in hearts of all the Indians. The Pahalgam terror attack saddened and enraged everyone, in response of which, on the intervening night of 6th and 7th of May, India launched Operation Sindoor. Through military might and resolute leadership, justice was delivered, reaffirming that India does not forget and never forgives terror. It resonated with India's commitment to peace, zero tolerance towards terror, and commitment to do whatever it takes to uproot terrorist infrastructure if circumstances so demand. After the NDA government assumed office in 2014, this has been the norm. People of India have not forgotten how prior to 2014, terror infrastructure was spread extensively across India. Bomb blasts across our big cities, be it Patna, Bengaluru, Mumbai, Guwahati, Varanasi, Ahmedabad, Hyderabad and even Delhi were common. This change has been greatly appreciated by people of India. The resolution also highlighted India's approach to such challenges in the future. First, if there is a terrorist attack on India, a befitting reply will be given. We will give a befitting response on our terms only. We will take strict action at every place from where the root of terrorism emerges. Secondly, India will not tolerate any nuclear blackmail. India will strike precisely and decisively at the terrorist hideouts developing under the cover of nuclear blackmail. Thirdly, we will not differentiate between the government-sponsored terrorism and masterminds of terrorism. August 5th marks a historic turning point in India's constitutional and political journey. On this day in 2019, The Government of India revoked Article 370, ending the special status of Jammu and Kashmir, a move hailed by many as a step towards integration, equality and development. 6 years on, we look back at the constitutional transformation, the intense parliamentary debate and the positive changes on the ground. Here's our special report.
Article 370 was introduced as a temporary provision in 1949, drafted by N. Gopalaswamy Iyengar. It granted special status to Jammu and Kashmir, allowing the state to have its own constitution, its own flag, and considerable autonomy, except in matters of defense, foreign affairs, and communication. This provision was based on the instrument of accession signed in 1947 by Maharaja Hari Singh after Pakistan-backed forces invaded the region. Over the decades, Article 370 created a unique constitutional setup, one that remained contentious. On August 5th, 2019, a decisive move was made. The government, invoking the powers of the President under Article 371, issued a presidential order redefining the term Constituent Assembly to mean the Legislative Assembly of Jammu and Kashmir. With the state under President's rule at the time, Parliament assumed legislative powers and passed concurrent resolutions in the Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha, effectively abrogating Article 370 and rendering Article 35A inoperative.
अनुच्छेद 370 के खंड 3 द्वारा प्रदत्त शक्तियों का प्रयोग करते हुए राष्ट्रपति संसद की सिफारिश पर यह घोषणा करते हैं कि यह दिनांक जिस दिन भारत के राष्ट्रपति द्वारा इस घोषणा पर हस्ताक्षर किए जाएंगे और इसे सरकारी गैजेट में प्रकाशित किया जाएगा, उस दिन से अनुच्छेद 370 के सभी खंड लागू नहीं होंगे, सिवाय खंड 1 के नामक तदनुसार पढ़ा जाएगा.
It wasn't just a constitutional maneuver, it was a moment of high drama and passionate debate in the parliament. In the Lok Sabha, the resolution to revoke Article 370 was passed with 351 votes in favour and 72 against, with one abstention. The Jammu and Kashmir Reorganisation Bill 2019 was also cleared, paving the way to bifurcate the state into two union territories, Jammu and Kashmir with a legislature and Ladakh without one. A day earlier, Rajya Sabha had also passed a resolution marking an unprecedented constitutional development. In December 2023, the Supreme Court upheld the abrogation in a unanimous verdict, observing that Article 370 was always meant to be temporary. The court also stated that Jammu and Kashmir had no internal sovereignty separate from India, and the Indian constitution now fully applies to the region.
कि 370 से जम्मू कश्मीर का और विशेषकर घाटी के युवाओं का भला नहीं हुआ है. आतंकवाद के रास्ते पर जो युवा गए, सबको मैं तो जिनके मन में अलगाववाद की भी भावना है या 370 के लिए भी जो लोग सोचते हैं कि हमारा कुछ छिन गया, मैं सबको विनम्र भाव से कहना चाहता हूं ये सदन का उपयोग कर कि आप हिसाब किताब तो करिए कि आपको 370 से क्या मिला. रोटी मिली, शिक्षा मिली, सुख सुविधा रोजगारी मिली, आरोग्य मिला, क्या मिला 370 से? क्यों झुंझुना पकड़े हुए हो? 370 है, वो जाने से धीरे धीरे हम घाटी के सभी लोगों को अपने नजदीक ला पाएंगे. उनके मन के अंदर एक नई आशा, नया उमंग, वहां पर जो विकास होगा.
Since the abrogation, the region has witnessed significant decline in terror incidents, stone pelting and separatist violence. The improved national security and increased presence of central laws, the law and order situation has seen marked improvement. For the first time, several central welfare schemes became accessible to people of Jammu and Kashmir, especially to women, scheduled caste and other marginalized communities. Discriminatory local laws were repealed, bringing gender justice and social equity in line with the rest of India. Tourism, which is the backbone of the region's economy, has seen a sharp rise. New industrial schemes like Prime Minister's Development Package and the Industrial Development Scheme have attracted investments and created job opportunities for the local youth. As Jammu and Kashmir embarks on a new journey within the constitutional framework of India, the abrogation of Article 370 remains a watershed moment, A move once called bold and controversial is now credited by many for unlocking peace, prosperity, and parity for the region. Bureau Report, DD India.
Staying with Jammu and Kashmir, the encounter in the Akhil forest area of Devsar in Kulgam district entered its 5th day on Tuesday, with intermittent firing and explosions continuing. Director General of Police and senior commanders from the Army's 15 Corps are closely monitoring this operation. The operation was launched on Friday evening after security forces received credible intelligence inputs about the presence of terrorists hiding in the dense Akhil forest. As the troops moved into the cordon-off area, they came under fire, triggering a prolonged gun battle, according to officials. So far, 3 terrorists have been killed and 3 soldiers have been injured, an official said. Firing is still going on and terrorists appear to be firing from multiple directions. The Indian Army last night kept the terrorists engaged in intense gunfights to prevent them from escaping in the dark. This is one of the longest anti-terrorist operations and is likely to take more time. The last rites of Jharkhand Mukti Morcha founder and former Chief Minister Shibu Soren will be performed today in his native village, Nemra, near Barka Nala in Bokaro district. The 81-year-old tribal leader and veteran politician breathed his last on Monday morning at Sir Gangaram Hospital in New Delhi after a prolonged illness related to kidney complications. A large number of supporters, political workers and tribal community members are also expected to gather to bid farewell to Dishom Guru, a title commonly used to refer to Soren, acknowledging his leadership among the tribal communities. Let's get to updates from West Asia now. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will convene his security cabinet on Tuesday to decide on Israel's next steps in Gaza following the collapse of indirect ceasefire talks with Hamas. It comes a day before a UN Security Council meeting on the fate of hostages still held in the Palestinian territory. Last Saturday, during a visit to the country, U.S. Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff had said that he was working with the Israeli government on a plan that would effectively end the conflict in Gaza. But Israeli officials have also floated ideas, including expanding the military offensive in Gaza and annexing parts of the shattered enclave. The failed ceasefire talks in Doha had aimed to clinch agreements on the US-backed proposal for a 60-day truce, during which aid would be flown into Gaza and half of the hostages Hamas is holding would be freed in exchange for Palestinian prisoners jailed in Israel. The envoy's visit was seen in Israel as very significant, but later on Sunday, the Israeli officials signaled that pursuit of a deal would be pointless, threatening more force. Israel's Foreign Minister Gideon Saar suggested on Monday that the gaps were still too wide to bridge. Canada delivered humanitarian assistance through airdrops to Gaza, again accusing Israel of violating international law. The Canadian Broadcasting Corporation reported that it was Canadian Armed Forces' first humanitarian airdrop over Gaza using their own aircraft. The Israeli military said 120 food aid packages for Gaza's residents were airdropped by 6 countries, including Canada. The other 5 were Jordan, United Arab Emirates, Egypt, Germany and Belgium. Canada said last week that it plans to recognize the state of Palestine as a meeting of the United Nations in September, ratcheting up pressure on Israel as starvation spreads in Gaza. Canada also said on Monday that Israeli restrictions have posed challenges for humanitarian agencies. Brazil's Supreme Court on Monday issued a house arrest order for former President Jair Bolsonaro, who is standing trial for allegedly plotting a coup. Justice Alexandre de Moraes said in his decision that the right-wing firebrand did not comply with judicial restraining orders imposed on him last month. Moraes also banned Bolsonaro from receiving visits, with exceptions for lawyers and people authored by the court, and also use of a cell phone either directly or through third parties. The restrictions on Bolsonaro were imposed over allegations that he courted the interference of Trump, who recently tied steep new tariffs on Brazilian goods. The former Brazilian leader is facing charges that he conspired with dozens of his allies to overturn his 2022 electoral loss. Bolsonaro's press representative confirmed the house arrest order and also restrictions on using a cell phone. The United States on Monday condemned a decision by Brazil's Supreme Court to put former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro under house arrest. The department's Bureau of Western Hemisphere Affairs said in a post on X, and I quote, "Putting even more restrictions on Jair Bolsonaro's ability to defend himself in public is not a public service. Let Bolsonaro speak." Over 190 countries will try to break an impasse and reach an agreement over the next fortnight on the first ever global plastics treaty that will create a legally binding framework to end plastic pollution, including in the marine environment. This will be the second installment of the fifth meeting of the Intergovernmental Negotiating Committee of the UN, which will take place in Geneva, Switzerland. Negotiators will pick up from the previous meeting in Busan, South Korea last December, where talks had collapsed over critical and unresolved issues. Plastic pollution has reached even the most remote corners of the planet today. 460 million tons of plastic are produced annually, of which only 9% is recycled, while the rest leaks into the environment. UN Environment Programme Chief Inga Anderson stressed on the urgency of reaching a meaningful deal, warning of the catastrophic impact of plastic pollution, especially on the marine ecosystem.
I want an effective treaty. I want a treaty that ends plastic pollution, including in the marine environment. That's why we're here. We're not here to not get something or to get something that's meaningless. But the reality is also, and this is where, 40 years in this business, the impacts are here and now. And we have to stop this from spiraling out of control.
The European Union will suspend 2 packages of planned countermeasures against the United States tariffs for 6 months following a deal with the US. A European Commission spokesperson said in a statement that the European Union will continue to work with the US to implement the tariff agreement reached on July 27th. The statement said that to achieve this goal, the European Commission will take necessary measures to suspend the retaliatory tariffs against the US originally scheduled to take effect starting this Thursday for a period of 6 months. The suspended retaliatory tariffs include a response to the US tariffs on EU steel and aluminum exports and a response to the baseline tariffs implemented by the Trump administration and the proposed auto tariffs. US President Donald Trump and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen held an informal meeting in Scotland on July 27th. After the meeting, Trump announced that the US and EU had reached a consensus on a new trade agreement. Tesla has granted CEO Elon Musk shares worth about $29 billion in a new pay deal aimed at keeping the billionaire entrepreneur at the helm. The company described the interim award of the 96 million new shares as a first step, good faith payment to honor Musk's more than $50 billion pay package from 2018. We'll get you more on this, but at present, we'll get you visuals from the national capital. Where the visiting dignitary, as we told you earlier in the bulletin, Philippines President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. will be holding talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi in the national capital. This is the first state visit of the Philippines President after he assumed office as the President of Philippines, and he has termed India as a very good partner. And in the morning, the visiting dignitary was given a ceremonial welcome at the forecourts of Rashtrapati Bhavan. And as we speak, the two leaders will be holding bilateral talks. We will get you the visuals in a short while from now. But at present, let's turn focus to the Elon Musk story, the new Elon Musk news item which we're telling you. Musk can claim the new award if he remains in a top executive role for another 2 years and a court does not reinstate the 2018 package currently on appeal. We'll get you more on this, but at present, we'll take you to Hyderabad House in the national capital, where Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Philippines President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. are present. They will be holding bilateral talks, and here we have the ceremonial handshake between the two leaders. This is Hyderabad House in the national capital, which will witness bilateral talks between visiting dignitary Philippines President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. and Prime Minister Narendra Modi. They will be holding discussions on an array of issues. Earlier in the day, The visiting dignitary was given a ceremonial welcome at Rashtrapati Bhavan. And also, remember, this is the first state visit by the Philippines president after he assumed charge. Diplomatic relations between India and Philippines were established in November 1949. And since then, both the countries have developed a strong partnership across a wide spectrum of areas. Now, these include trade and investment, defense and security, maritime cooperation, agriculture, healthcare, pharmaceuticals, and also digital technologies. The two countries also regularly engage at a regional level, that is through India's comprehensive strategic partnership with ASEAN. Added to this, India's relations with the Philippines are also an integral part of India's Act East policy, Vision Mahasagar, and the vision of the Indo-Pacific. The camaraderie between the two leaders is not to be missed. Both the leaders at Hyderabad House, and both of them will be holding bilateral talks. Later in the day, President Marcos will also meet President Draupadi Murmu. Yesterday, we saw President Marcos meet Dr. S. Jaishankar, Minister of External Affairs, and also at present, we see Ferdinand Marcos at Hyderabad House with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and both the leaders will be holding bilateral talks. This is a 5-day state visit of President Ferdinand Marcos to India, and this is the first state visit by him after he assumed charge as the President of Philippines. He arrived in New Delhi yesterday on a 5-day state visit to India. He is accompanied by First Lady Luis Araneta Marcos and also a high-level business delegation, including several cabinet ministers, senior officials and other dignitaries, and added to that business representatives also. So both the leaders at Hyderabad House, and they will be holding bilateral talks. We will keep you updated. The bilateral talks have begun, and we will get you the details after the talks. And as of now, that's it in this edition of DD India Live. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those of you on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. This app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and you can download the respective QR codes. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.